What's up, Charlie?
Hey, man.
Now that we have it set up, let me see if we're on Facebook. Yep, we are on Facebook. Let's see if we are on Twitter. I'm checking my phone to see if the live feed is going to Twitter. Yep, we're on Twitter. And let's see if we are on YouTube. Yep. 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 We are on all platforms, so it is working. What's up, Charlie?
Nothing much. Just eating away. Is that allowed? Can I eat? Will this cause us to be shut down?
We can eat. We can as long as it's not spam, Charlie. As long as you're not eating spam.
I had my moves to be already. Okay.
Anyway, welcome everybody. For some reason, my counter isn't working. Oh, there we go. 41. Wow. All right, guys. Thank you all for joining us tonight on this wonderful Thursday evening. You got Mel and Charlie. Tonight we got a great show for you all. Just wanted to let everybody know that tonight we are broadcasting live on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Oh, hang on. Let me make sure I.
Okay.
And I did hit the record button. So we are recording. We got all the bases covered, people. We have it all covered. We're also going to broadcast this on our brand new podcast, which we'll launch, Charlie. That tonight we'll do what we got to do, and we'll get it up on the podcast. So this from tonight forward, all of our shows will be broadcasted on live on all of these platforms. Now, guys, I ask you to go to these platforms. If we should get cut off tonight, like we did the other night, if we get deleted by Facebook, like we got the other night, just jump on Twitter, YouTube, or LinkedIn. Just go to my page, which all of them are the same. It's all Mel Raposo. Just search, find my page, and you will see the live broadcast going on. So we got it all covered, guys. That's not going to happen again. And then we're going to publish tonight's show as our first podcast. The first podcast, because it has to go through a review process. It'll probably take a week to a week and a half. That's just the way it works. So we are going to, yeah. So we yeah. See, I got people watching on Twitter now, so that's pretty cool. The only thing is we won't be able to see the comments on Twitter or the Twitter comments. Let me see. Let me see if I
And I
can
say
log
aloha
in.
from to all of our friends on the other islands, outer islands. We considered outer islands originally when you're from Oahu. Outer islands would be Kauai. But since Kauai is the base, we like to say aloha no to everyone on the island of Oahu, Maui, Molokai, Lanai, as well as the big island, Hawaii Island. We like to say aloha, welcome for joining us tonight. Our very first night out of, I better not say anything. I'm worried. I don't know what we triggers a spam. I love spam, but in
Charlie, I love spam.
but in
I love
Facebook
spam.
world, spam is a you just gotta be careful. So if I was eating mochi crunch just a little while ago, then I caught myself and said, "Hey, is that allowed, or I'm gonna get spam?" And someone
Well,
asked, "Can we still swear?" Well, honestly, we sometimes swearing comes out of frustration. We shouldn't. We shouldn't because we don't know who's watching. You might have some educated 6-year-old watching our show, so we shouldn't swear. But if it does, I apologize if it comes out. And but I promise you, I will refrain from swearing because now I am shell shocked. I mean, I'm even afraid. Normally I would stand up and go get something from the kitchen, but I don't know if that will trigger a spam. So I'm just gonna stay put. Even if I gotta use the lure, I'm gonna hold it in. I'm gonna stay put because that might trigger a spam too.
I know for those of you, I know we're on early. 7 o'clock is when we start the program with our guests. Tonight we got an awesome panel, guys. As you all know, on August 6th, since the pandemic and since everybody was out of work, lockdowns, the federal government initiated an eviction moratorium. So landlords could not evict their tenants. That goes away on August 6th. So we have a panel tonight that we'll be introducing shortly, that's going to talk about options, what's really happening, and it'll be an informative show. And that's why we decided to put this on every platform possible. So and I know a lot of you are wondering, what the hell are you guys talking about? What are you all talking about? We're talking about the other night when we had Daniel Ross from the Hawaii Nurses Association on our show. He poured it out. He was emotional. He told us what was really going on in the hospitals in Hawaii, and it wasn't pretty. And apparently, we touched somebody's nerve, and we that's whoever's nerve we touched filed a complaint with Facebook as being spam. Now I don't know where they got the spam from. So Facebook, without any warning, interrupted the feed. We had most of the show over an hour already, but they interrupted the feed and they deleted the entire show. I don't have access to the video. I have appealed it, and we're waiting to see. They're going to review it and see if it in fact violated their community standards as it relates to spam. That's what they sent me. I posted on my page.
Yep.
So tonight we're on all platforms. So like I said, if some uneducated adult decides that they cannot handle our discussion and they file a complaint and Facebook cuts us off, just jump over to YouTube, guys. Jump over to Twitter. Jump over to LinkedIn. It's all live. And again, my page name on all of those platforms is very simple. It's Mel Raposo. Just search up my page and you will be able to watch the entire show. I'm also recording this for extra safety measure. And as I said earlier, our programs will now be loaded up on a podcast where you'll be able to watch it on Anchor, on iTunes, on Spotify. The whole objective, like I said last night, people, we want to get this message out. You saw today's numbers. And again, they're still catching up with the numbers from their interruption of their reporting. So we really don't know what it is. I honestly think it's over 300 right now. The hospitalizations, 12 more people admitted into the hospital today. Guys, I'm telling you, this is real. So we believe, Charlie and I, that this is really the only vehicle in place right now where viewers can come in and get the straight scoop.
And they can also get a free serving of spam.
Spam. You know, Charlie, we're talking about doing. I remember I talked to you a couple of days ago, a week ago, whatever. We're talking about doing the Mel and Charlie vaccination tour or the vaccine tour. We would go out to all the communities. Dr. Capono has agreed. I've sent an invite out to the county and the state to see if they're willing to join us. But we would go to every community. And what I was thinking, Charlie, we go get some sponsors. We go pitch in some money and go get free breakfasts for those that come in the morning and free lunches for those that come in the afternoon. But after the last show, we'll give away spam, cans of spam. How's that?
Yes. So
Mel and Charlie spam vaccine tour. How's that?
Because I know the other platforms, they don't have spam.
They don't have spam, bro.
They have
They do not.
Yeah. They have lap chong.
No, you see, people.
They've got a bird. Hawaii channel got the bird.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we're on all, Selena, we're on all platforms now, and it's going to be up to us to promote it. It's going to be up to our village that we have here with all of you to share it with your friends and promote it. Now they can see us on all platforms, and I'm very, very, very excited. And this is, and we'll bring in our guests because they're all in the waiting room right now. On our podcast description, Charlie, I put down that Mel and Charlie discusses current topics that affect everyone with straight talk and a unique sense of humor. And that's what's going to show up. And I think that's what we do. And we're going to be serious all the time.
We do not add any spamify because there is spam, but there's no spamifying on. Oh,
Okay, somebody just told me our video just got interrupted. It hasn't been interrupted on my phone, so it's.
yeah.
Let me see. Okay, no, it's still going. It's still going. I don't know what happened. Blanche, I'm not sure. Okay, I do not share it on Facebook because it said she shared it and then looks like she got. I don't know. Guys, again, real quick, if we get interrupted, if your feed gets interrupted, go over to YouTube and you can watch it live. This is really irritating me. Okay, all good on Facebook, Gladys. Thank you. All right, guys, let's bring in our guests real quick. Tonight, we are in for a treat. They're going to start popping up right now. There they are. Look at that. Boom.
Oh,
What a panel.
like,
Uh-oh. How come? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're missing one. How come? Yep, there it is. Boom.
Yep. Boom.
I hope you guys see, Charlie, you got to understand, these people are all elite people. These are like the top of the line. This is grade A. Look, we got more people coming in. I thought we only had 5. Anyway, these are, Charlie, so we got to behave. We got to behave tonight, okay?
No, wait. You gotta behave, not me.
I always behave. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, tonight it is my pleasure, Charlie and my pleasure to have this esteemed panel. As I stated in the pre-show, we are facing the removal of the COVID-19 eviction moratorium on August 6th. That's going to put a lot of people in some very interesting situations, landlords and tenants alike. So I was contacted by Representative Nadine Nakamura, who wanted to share what they're doing. I thought, why not bring them on the show, and she can bring her team on. And let me just really quick do a real brief introduction, and we'll turn it over to Nadine, and then we'll get the show on the road. Obviously, Representative Nadine Nakamura, State Representative for Kauai. Representative Troy Hashimoto. What's up, Troy? Welcome to the show. Dan O'Meara with the Legal Aid Society of Hawaii. Dana Hazelton with the Kauai Government Employees Federal Credit Union. That's my bank. Or, sorry, that's my credit union. We got the world famous Maybell Fujiuchi, KEO Executive Director, and Anna Rajenko she's the KEO Program Director, or Mediation Director for the Kauai Economic Opportunity Nonprofit. Thank you all for being here. Exciting show. Nadine, take it away.
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Mel and Charlie, for giving us this forum to tell everyone about this eviction diversion program. It really helps us to get the word out to the community about what happens after August 6th when the eviction moratorium is lifted. And I'm really happy with the panel we have today because they all have an important role to play in how this, what happens, come next week. So I wanted to start off with for asking Rep. Troy Hashimoto from Wailuku, Maui, and he's the vice chair of the Housing Committee, of which I chair. And Troy helped to craft this bill, HB 1376, which the governor signed into law. So it's now Act 57. And he's going to tell us why this bill was needed and what happens once the eviction moratorium is lifted on August 6th. So Rep. Hashimoto.
Well, good evening, everyone. It's good to see you, Mel. It's been a long time. Mel was serving as the council chair when I was just a council staffer back on Maui. And so, good times at all these events that we used to go to together to learn more about how to be better lawmakers. But great to be here tonight. And I think I have to give props to Rep. Nakamura, who's really represents Kauai very well at the Hawaii State Legislature. I'm so lucky to have her as my chair on the Housing Committee, and she's such a great colleague. And I think we've definitely endured quite a bit this past session because I think this was one of our biggest priorities that we were trying to get pushed through the legislature this year, is to somehow figure out what are we going to do once the eviction moratorium ends. And it was Rep. Nakamura who brought a whole bunch of people together back in December knowing that this day eventually would come. I think, back in December, we were kind of like, we're kind of still in this pandemic, and it's hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel. But, Rep. Nakamura had that foresight to think and plan ahead. And so she brought us together and say, hey, we need to work on something. We need to work on some type of off-ramp to when this eviction moratorium ends, we can have a soft landing for those who truly are in need. And that is what the genesis of Act 57 is all about. It's a collaboration between landlord attorneys, Legal Aid Society, Hawaii Appleseed, the judiciary, and various other entities who just wanted to help the Realtors Association to come to the table and come up with some type of solution that would bring the eviction moratorium to an end and transition peacefully back to normalcy. So just some context, at the time when we were starting to look at this bill, we anticipated that there could be up to 10,000 households who were behind rent and could face some type of an eviction. And at that time, we didn't know if there was going to be federal stimulus for those who were behind on their rent. And so that was a good development over the course of the legislative session. It became clear that we were going to get a lot of money for rental assistance. And I'm glad we're going to cover that this evening, because there is a lot of rental assistance out there for those who may have back rent. The only caveat is you have to qualify. And so that is one of the questions that you have to see if you go through the process to make sure that you qualify. Because if you do, you can go up to years plus, back to March 2020, to get some type of back rent. So I really encourage everyone to look into that. And I'm glad that the folks who are in charge of that on Kauai are here tonight to talk about all of the logistics relating to that. But when the biggest thing about Act 57 really was keeping it simple when we did this off-ramp. We didn't want to get too complicated, and we tried to make it as streamlined as possible, because we know for landlords and tenants, it simply can be confusing when you have to go through all this paperwork and understand all of the rules and regulations. And so that the crux of what the solution really is we looked at the judiciary who kind of oversees landlord and tenant code issues when there is a dispute. And we saw, what did they actually do if you want to take this to court and you want to resolve this? And really their thing that they do is they force you into mediation if you file a court action. And so we wanted to make sure that instead of waiting in line to get before a judge before you get into mediation, we provide some type of free mediation before you even go and see the judge. And we force that issue of mediation in hopes that you don't even have to go there. So we move the mandatory mediation after you see a judge to before a court filing. And so that is the heart of what Act 57 calls for. It calls for a process to set up that mediation, go through that mediation within a specific time frame that Dan will cover. And in the end, hopefully you won't even have to go in front of a judge, because you will have some type of agreement between your landlord and tenant. We know that this has been going on for a very, very long time. It's over a year. And so I think a lot of people are very antsy. They want to get going. They want to get back to some normalcy. But we felt that this was important because, number one, we didn't want to get the court system overwhelmed. So there is a tiered in system depending on how much back rent you owe that you can then qualify to go through this free mediation program and then go in front of a judge if for some reason that mediation doesn't work. And we want to be able to make sure that the mediation can be done well. And we wanted to make sure we could hire professional mediators that could go through all of the steps that may be necessary. And so we provide mediators for up to an hour and a half under this Act 57 to thoroughly discuss all of the options available, including rental assistance and other types of assistance that you may not have thought of. And so we think it's going to be beneficial. We think that we thought of most things that could happen, but of course, like anything else, there may be things that we didn't think of. And so we're trying to work with everyone who is involved to make this as easy as possible come August 6th. And we know August 6th is pretty solid because when we had Act 57 go into law, one of the things that the governor needed to do was he needed to notify the legislature and the judiciary 20 days before the eviction moratorium will expire. And so a few weeks ago, he did make that announcement, that we joined him in making that announcement, that this was going to expire on August 6th. And once August 6th comes around, we will, on August 7th, I should say, comes around, we will transition to this Act 57 provisions of mediation and having to go through this longer waiting period, because, you know, the normal period is about, I think, five days when you file some type of eviction. So it's a little bit of a process, but we want to provide you all that info. And I'm glad that Dan's here, because he's quite the expert. He really helped us craft the bill to and think about all of the variations that are included in Act 57. But so glad to be here, and hopefully we can talk story more in detail as we go along tonight.
Thanks, Troy. I want to have Dan O'Meara from Legal Aid tell us more about the program. And Dan helped to develop a lot of the legal documents as well, on actually what the landlords and the tenants have to do in order to be in compliance with this new law. And so I'm going to hand it over to Dan. And again, I want to just echo what Rep. Hashimoto said, which is that Dan was very instrumental representing the tenant's point of view and working with the landlords and the realtors who, you know, they didn't always see eye to eye, but they were able to compromise in crafting this bill. So Dan.
Thank you very much, Representative Nakamura. I'll be kind of a lot of the boring nitty gritty stuff. I think Dana has the money, so she's going to be very, you know, very key in this whole thing. So what happens is that nobody's been able to be evicted for non-payment since last March 2020. So starting August 7th, it can happen again. And during that time, what traditionally happened with a eviction was it took the 5-day notice that Representative Hashimoto referred to. And that was a pretty straightforward, it could be 2 or 3 sentences, literally, because all you have to do is say you have 5 days to pay your rent or we're going to evict you. And that pretty much sufficed. I'm going to share the screen, I hope. And I'm going to show you what, you know, kind of what happens. So what you see now is what used to be 2 or 3 sentences is now a notice that's 3 pages long, okay? So any landlord who is wanting to evict somebody for non-payment, they really should try and use this template. They can try and create themselves, they can pay their lawyer to create themselves, but it's been done. This was done in collaboration with landlord attorneys, with mediation centers, and a lot of review by a lot of people, input from landlords and tenants alike. So what you see is that this is important too, because there aren't many places right now that are sharing this, and Representative Nakamura has it on her website. So the templates for each county. So in Kauai, you can go to repnakamura.com. Anybody in the whole state can go to repnakamura.com and get that template, because it's a fillable PDF. You fill it out as a landlord. It's very informative for the tenant, which basically emphasizes that instead of 5 days, you're going to get 15 days at least in order to be to try and make up the rent. And then if in fact you do schedule the mediation that Representative Hashimoto referred to through the KEO, then you get an extra 15 days. So it's a big deal that now you can have, if you actually participate and try and engage in the process, you're still going to have up to 30 days before the landlord can file anything again. So the point is you're trying to encourage people to participate, and the key is, you know, participate. That's a big deal, because you get a notice, you get something from court, a lot of people ignore it or they don't show up. And if that happens, you're going to be evicted very quickly. Just by showing up, you're probably going to get an extra 15 to 45 days longer to work things out. And that's just a huge deal. So it gives all the information that's necessary. This form will go to the mediation center, and they will then contact the tenant to try and set up the mediation. So this is the reality. This is what tenants are going to be looking to get in the mail or post on their door, and this is what landlords are going to be using. Now I'll show you, just to be brief and quick again, I'm going to show you one more thing here, which is the actual, oops, gotta get it. Okay, so what we have is, okay. So if you're a landlord or a tenant, the judiciary has, so now it provides all the information that's going to be necessary to know whether the landlord complied with what you're doing. And you can see is that what Representative Hashimoto referred to is the first wave of people to be evicted for non-payment are the people who are 4 months behind. Then in September, it goes to 3 months behind. If you're within 2 months current, you're going to be safe until November potentially. And likewise, with 1 month, it could be January. And so the landlords have a lot more things they have to pay attention to. So there's a lot more opportunity to be informed about the process as you go along. What this is intended to do is give people time to reach out to the mediation center and to Dana to try and get that rental assistance. There's a lot of money. There's a lot of money in the state, and they think it'll cover a lot of back rent. So you just have to take advantage of it. That's kind of the nuts and bolts of it. I don't want to bore anybody more, get some more exciting stuff than that. Thank you, Representative Nakamura.
Thank you, Dan. So, Dan talked about the mediation services, and we're lucky on Kauai that we have an established organization that has been doing mediation and has a program down. And so we're able to work with them on this program. And Mabel Fujiuchi is the executive director, as you said, of KEO, and Anastasia Rosenko is the KEO's mediation director. So I wanted to hand it over to Mabel and Anastasia to tell us about how the mediation program is going to work.
Okay, thank you, Representative. First of all, thank you very much for that introduction, Mel. But I need to tell you that I will never be as famous as you and Charlie, and I will never work as hard as the Representative Nakamura and Hashimoto do. So with that put on the side, I need to say that there are two more famous people here than I ever will be, and two more hardworking people than I will ever be. So thank you for doing that. Getting to mediation, KEO has had the mediation program since 1982. And this one in specific is specific for landlord tenants. And I cannot say enough that I'm really hoping that we don't have to do a lot of mediations, because the money that Dana has with the Kauai Government Credit Union will pay the back rent owed by the tenant to the landlord and maybe some forward rent. And that way we will prevent more homelessness, will prevent tenancies from being evicted or severed, and both parties will be happy. And that is my hope. But we are here to do the mediation when there are conflicts between the landlord and the tenant, and the landlord in particular is still seeking to evict the tenant. And, I want to say that mediation is a very fair, neutral process. So although it appears that this is only protecting the tenant, we also are protecting the landlord, because we really believe that both sides have a story. Sometimes you have 3 and 4 sides to a situation, and our job is to mediate those concerns or disputes that they may have in order to come up with a resolution that is good for both parties, in the hope that housing will continue. I'm going to yield over to Anastasia, and she can kind of tell you about how she's got the mediation set up. We already have mediators that are keen into doing this particular mediation. And she can also give you the contact information, which I think is important. Anastasia?
Thank you so much, Mabel. Thank you, Representative. I just want to underline that if people are already thinking about mediation, that means they are in process, and it's very important to make them understand that they need to contact us, or we will put our effort to contact them. And thank you so much for then creating all these steps, how we can be known and how can we be involved further in process. And right now we are setting up the pretty simple, trying to be efficient. Mediation is going to be oriented on all referrals that Dana is providing. We're in a collaboration with Dana, and also we are trying to educate people. We will try and process to educate people how can they actually be qualified and get the assistance. And if there is a conflict and we actually perform the mediation, we have dedicated people that are with us, and we are very thankful. So far it was amazing support from my mediators. They're interested to do that, and it's going to be a practice that is not different from any other practices of mediations that we're doing here, but just dedicated for the evictions. This is how we are going to perform. And plus Dana is sharing a lot of informations that we're going to be on the same page and in very good support to each other. So I'm hoping it's going to be just efficient, smooth, and simple as much as possible.
Thank you, Anastasia. And last but not least is Dana Hazelton, and she is with the Kauai Government Employees Federal Credit Union, and she currently oversees the Corona Rent and Utility Assistance Program, funds that came from the federal government to the state, to the county, and then to the credit union. And she's going to tell us about the efforts to prevent homelessness and housing disruption in our community, and how this ties in all into this mediation program. Hey, Dana.
Thank you so much, Representative Nakamura. I really appreciate you bringing this panel together to talk about this topic beforehand, because it's really important that we all communicate effectively. We're all in this together, and our end goal is to maintain housing security and stability. And I can tell you, behind the scenes, working with KEO, working with legal aid, and working with your amazing team, we're in alignment. So a little bit about the Coronavirus Rent and Utility Assistance Program, also known as CRUA. Our team is fully staffed, and this is not our first rodeo. We did deploy rental and housing assistance back in 2020 as well. In this program, however, it's a little different. We can cover rent and utilities in arrears, meaning anything you owe that's past due, and we can cover 3 months at a time future rent. So it's really important that people come to our website, they apply with us. Our website is kauaiRentHelp.com. We have many, many ways to make sure that you're eligible. We're a fully staffed, very creative team to ensure that you're getting the help you need, and we do go the extra mile. So we have some of the lowest decline rates of any program, which means that we hear the needs of the community and we meet them. So the way that we see our program fitting in to divert any possible evictions and disrupt housing stability is we share data behind the scenes between the partners so that we know nobody's slipping through the cracks. Our program is for 80% AMI. households that meet the 88% AMI qualifications. However, we are very adept to qualifying you. So my biggest message that I tell people every single day about this program is, number one, we have ample funding. Number two, just apply. It is our job. It is our job to help you and assist you in getting rent and utilities paid off. And this program is phenomenal. There is no rent, there is no utility cap. So if you owe water, sewer, electric, gas, we can pay that all off for you all the way back to March of 2020. Then we can also pay 3 months of future rent to help stabilize your situation. You don't need to be behind in rent. You can be behind in just utilities, and vice versa. We can pay rent and utilities in arrears, and we pay future rent as well. So you also don't need to be behind in rent. We can pay 3 months at a time in future rent, and we can pay up to 12 months of assistance. And in some cases, we do pay more based on the need. If it's gonna, our main goal is to keep people housed and stabilize and provide housing security. And we're really, really serious about this. We do have a rental cap up to $4,500, which we set in place to be very generous, because we understand that rents are expensive on Kauai and they may be going up in the future. And so we're working every single day to ensure that we hear the voice of the people, and we're here for you. So just apply.
Thank you. Thanks, Dana. And we really want to acknowledge the County of Kauai. Adam Reversi is the housing director, and he helped to set up these contracts and get the funding out to the credit union and to KEO. So really appreciate all of the coordination on his part as well.
He is amazing. I cannot say how appreciative we are of working with such an amazing team. Well, we are so blessed to be on Kauai.
So that's really our presentation portion. Mel and Charlie, thank you again for letting us speak. And if you have any questions, we have the team here to answer.
Yes, I have a question. I'm going to throw this out because there seems to be some dynamics to this entire program. What about those landlords who haven't been well-versed in business per se, and now they're facing the loss of their property totally? Okay, they run into that problem. Does this, what the program that you have here, it's sort of like it's held off in the wings until that landlord himself can get him out of the hole, right? Wouldn't that be fair to say?
Is this question for me?
For anybody, because I'm hearing and appreciate the follow through with regards to the renter, but there is a foundation that's being addressed here, and that is the landlord. What if they haven't been savvy enough to keep property and run into problems themselves? Now it's sort of like a double-edged sword. Now they face problems on their own that might not be able to, the mediation might not be able to even get started because they're on the verge of losing the property themselves because of whatever mortgage is outstanding and what they could have put in there. What approaches is taken at that point?
Yeah, well, in the second round of rental funding, the landlord applies for the funds, can apply for the funds themselves. But like you said, they have to know about the program, that it's available, because if it is available, the landlord, works with Dana directly. And maybe Dana, you want to elaborate on that?
So, this is just for rental assistance. This is not for mortgage assistance. However, we have worked a lot with landlords to make sure that they are getting the support they need. And we can take landlords applying directly with us with consent of tenants. We do pay the landlords directly. We hear the concerns of landlords every single day. Every single day, we get hundreds of calls. And when we work with landlords, we have to do what we have to do within our scope of practice, which is to help get them the monies that are owed from missing rent. Beyond that, I know that there is mortgage assistance coming down the pipeline. And so there is hope for future assistance for landlords with that. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, one last question. I'm sorry, Dan, I see you got something there, but I wanted to ask you then, if time is running out for those landlords, is there a mechanism in place that can slow this runaway train? Because if that train goes off the rails, then everything doesn't work. Is there something out there that can slow down the process? Because I'm not only talking about the person who may have been behind on their rent, and I'm talking about, and again, I mean, unfortunately, and I'm not speaking for all landlords. I'm pretty sure, pretty much, landlords know how to run their business, but there are some that just may have fallen at the wayside, and things just, especially the younger ones that purchased the property young in their, maybe they just got married and they have other things that just came about and it just caught them off guard, and they rented a property per se, and they're now on the verge of losing it. Is there anything that can slow their process down so we can, again, we're trying to stabilize housing, but there's a lot of variables to this. And I'm looking at some of the questions that's being asked by our viewers. What is there out there? I know we're addressing those individuals who are arrears in their rent right now. But again, they have to have both sides for this thing to work. Is there something out there? Is there something?
Representative, go ahead, Dan. I'll yield to Dan.
Go ahead, Dan.
Okay, well, you're right. I mean, that is absolutely, all this money is intended to go back into the economy through the, what you're right that there's people who just aren't going to take advantage of it. Legal aid tends to help tenants, but we do also help homeowners. We have HUD counselors. We have programs where we help people in distress. We don't help if you're trying to buy a home. We try to help the people you're referring to, which is they come to us, their bank is getting on them or something's going on and they want to figure out a way to solve it. And it can work out. It can work out. I'm not going to say it always works out, but just getting some good financial information, because we have some real experienced HUD counselors, and it's not just us, but there's also some HUD counselors available throughout the state. We're one of the resources, but because what you're pointing out is exactly it. It's sort of that you just don't know what you don't know, and almost everybody on this is a resource in some respect for that. But we have specific people who are designed to address that with homeowners. It's not that we're trying to, it's not because they're landlords or anything, it's just because they're homeowners, and that, there's going to be a lot of, with the next round of money that's going to be available, maybe some of that will be available. Lenders are not interested in taking back these properties. If they can work it out, they can. So you're right. I mean, you're 100% correct. And that, I just want to put that out there. Yeah, it's a thing. It really is a thing. So thanks for asking.
I think we'll try to focus on for a possible future show resources for as far as mortgage assistance in addition to rental assistance. But I think in this scenario, the way in a perfect world, now we know it's never a perfect world, but let's say I came up to KauaiRentHelp.com and I applied and I'm back 3 months or 4 months. Well, then you would assume that the landlord is back, could be possibly back 3 or 4 months in their mortgage, because that's just the chain effect. But if I go and get my monies from KauaiRentHelp.com, I'm assuming that money goes straight to the landlord, even if I applied and not the landlord. I applied, I'm assuming that money goes to the landlord, so to help the landlord come up to date with their mortgage arrears. So in a perfect world, and I guess that is my question, the monies that get approved, does that go straight to the landlord, or can I go buy a boat and worry about my rent next month?
Well, luckily, federal procurement allows us to pay landlords directly in order to mitigate that risk of you buying a boat. So yes, the payments do get made directly to landlords, and they get made in one lump sum. So previous programs, some of the funding was held up, but in this program, if the tenant is behind, say 12 months, and they're at risk of losing their home, and we need to fund them for all their arrears 12 months, and then we want to fund them 3 months in the future in order so that they are not homeless, we will fund the landlord a check for all the arrears that is missing in one payment for those 15 months. And we do, yes. So these payments do get made directly to landlords. There's some instances where landlords will not cooperate. Those are very few. Those are very few instances, and we can pay the tenant directly, but the program is designed to give the monies to the landlords. And, I work at a financial institution. I work at a credit union. So through this crisis all day long, all financial institutions are working on is forbearance. We're helping people keep their homes. We don't want to take these homes back. So there are a lot of options for homeowners. I would recommend that they talk to their financial institution and see what their options are.
And I also want to put in a plug that there is a federal program to assist homeowners with back mortgage payments, and that will be rolled. I know they're working on the program design, and that will also be announced. I'm pretty sure pretty shortly.
But I think Mel and Charlie, I think you bring up a good point, because I think there are those who don't fall into qualifying for rental assistance. And that, when we took a look at the data, we think that is the first ones who are going to be up first through the mediation program and to court, are those who are above 80% AMI, which I think, if it's single person, it's like around, I'm not sure what Kauai is. I know in Maui it's around 80,000. You have to, maybe Dana probably knows, but for those who make above that salary, they're not going to qualify for rental assistance. But a lot of them still, there are some instances when I talk to landlords where they're not paying their rent for probably the whole time of the eviction moratorium. And so those are the ones who we probably anticipate are probably not very much needy, but are just doing it because they just choose to do that. And I think we wanted to balance it out to make sure that those who have that legitimate issue are able to go through a fairly quick process. Obviously, probably if they haven't paid for that long, mediation isn't going to do anything. And so we want them to quickly get to court. And so our intent is hopefully those are the ones that will be taken care of. The ones that there is some type of abuse happening, they can get to court fairly quickly. They can get out, because what we don't want is the landlord being forced to sell their property. And, throughout the pandemic, if you've sold your property, you could actually, that was a loophole to get out of the eviction moratorium. You could have your tenants move out if you sold the property. But we really don't want that, because what we've been seeing, some of the stories I've been hearing is that once you sell that property, guess who's probably buying that property? Probably someone from the mainland. And we really want to keep it local, right? And so we don't necessarily want that to happen. So it's in our best interest to really make this work and to make it happen. But we know it's probably going to be hopefully taking care of those people that really are abusing at this point. And we are trying to help those who really need it right now.
Real quick, Dana, I know you're the star of the show because you got all the money. But I did have some questions for Maybelle and Anastasia as well. You mentioned there was a $4,500 cap. That's a month, I assume.
Correct. It's $4,500 a month for rent. There's no
Just
cap
for the
for
rent.
utilities.
And we know that I saw I think for Kauai. By the way, this is a statewide program, right?
Yeah.
No, this is just for Kauai County residents. So residents of Kauai and Niihau.
Okay, I'm assuming that the other counties, and maybe you can help me, Troy,
Each
do the other,
county has its
each
own
county?
program.
Okay, got it.
Mhm.
And is it correct that repnakamura.com, you can find the information on this program, or did I just force you to have to put it up on your website, maybe?
No, it is,
It's not.
I think it's repnakamura.gov.
Oh, .gov, okay.
Oh, no, is it com?
It is
Okay,
calm.
it's com.
Yeah.
Repnakamura.gov.
Yeah, that-
Sorry, I don't even know my
Well,
own.
we will
website.
definitely, we'll look into this and make sure that we put out all the resources statewide in the next couple of days, and we'll make sure we get that out. So the 4,500 is per month and no cap on the utilities. Like I was saying, KIUC and I think the water department are starting to look at the disconnection services
Mhm.
as we get through, as more and more things open up. So I think this is a great program. Now,
Hey,
Maybell,
Mel.
I know, yeah, go ahead.
I got to ask this question. And I know there's a lot right now, there's question marks going on the feed. $4,500 for rent assistance to pay back rent. I mean, I don't know anyone right now. I mean, I know like on Maui and Wailea, yeah, I think you can get some $4,500 a month rental in the Wailea area, but that's a sizable amount.
Yeah, it is, Charles. And the reason we set the cap really high is because we had to set some sort of cap, because there are workarounds and there are very clever people out there who will take advantage of these funds. And so we didn't want to set the cap too low either, because the rental market on Kauai is, I live here. I'm born and raised here, and I can barely afford what the rental market demands right now. We have rents for 2-bedroom apartments for $5,000. And there's such a demand from the outside that we set the cap high to ensure that if somebody needs to move out of their home because their rent's going up, that they have some security. They have, there's a lot of families here, who have homes that are upwards of almost $4,000. And I know that's shocking, but it should be shocking. And we should be talking about our, rent control at some point, or some, sorry, but that's the economic reality is people can get it. And so it's happening. So we set that cap high to have a really big net. We wanted to cast a big net, and B, to ensure that we are protected against any behavior that's dishonest.
But you also have the 80% AMI as a safety net. So that'll cut out a lot of the abusers and all of those clowns that didn't lose their job, that decided to buy the boat because they didn't have to pay rent. They can go explain that to the judge in an eviction proceeding rather than go get free money from the government. And that's just the way I feel. I think that 80% really solves that problem. Most of it, you're going to always find people that's going to try to work around it. But we got to, especially here on Kauai, I know this for a fact. We have multi-generational families living in homes, and they combine their income to pay rent. And so I see that it's crazy. Mm-hmm. But they're going to be protected, or the program is going to be protected, because if you have someone making $150,000 a month that was paying $5,000 a month rent, or $4,500 a month rent, they're not going to be eligible because of the AMI, and they should have been paying their rent instead of buying the boat. That's all it is. So that's a great segue now to Maybell. So I am outside of that limits, or I get a letter from my landlord, and it says, hey, well, you get the letter from the landlord, and I get the letter from KEO saying, hey, you're going into mediation because you're possibly going to be evicted. What's the process from there? What can a tenant expect? I've been through that KEO mediation training. It's tough, but what can the lender or the renter expect once they get that letter?
Once they get that letter, they can expect someone from KEO to call them and then elicit the information about the facts surrounding the situation. We don't take for granted. I think we would know that they are behind in their rent. In most cases, that would be the the problem. There may be other situations as well. So the mediation staff member will elicit that information and also try to encourage that person to come in for mediation. It is a voluntary process. However, if they do not come in for mediation, there are some liabilities that occur. And I think like Dan specified that they would be eligible, so to speak, for eviction. So it's really a good thing to come in for mediation. One of the things we have discussed in-house was that we would also encourage them to apply for the funds that Dana has. Because if the conflict is on non-payment and the tenant can qualify for the payment, that might resolve the conflict. So mediation is all about resolving that conflict. If there are other issues, then they will be assigned a mediator and they will be asked to, we've been doing it virtually, or if they really need to come in person, we allow that with certain restrictions. And the mediator will then conduct a mediation. And it starts with both parties stating their side of the concerns. And then the mediator will guide them, not make a decision, but guide them towards coming up with a resolution or a decision or an agreement between the two parties. Of course, there's steps along the way as things occur. If you act out really heavily against the mediator, we just excuse you and don't allow you back. But we've had that in very, very few circumstances. But otherwise, and like Dan was saying, the limit, I think it was Dan that said the limit was 1.5 hours for this one. And then if there are other issues, we also have mediation services for other issues, which could be, family issues, other issues as well. However, this program is really going to be focused on preserving eviction.
What triggers, maybe I should ask, what is a threshold, but what triggers an impasse? You're in mediation, and it's like working really hard, but it just can't get over that hump. There's probably an impasse at that point, right?
What triggers an impasse are the parties themselves. When you go through mediations, the parties themselves make a decision to come to a resolution. When they negotiate that resolution with each other, they are the ones that decide an impasse in most situations. Like everything, you've got some exceptions. If the mediator feels that there are other concerns that you cannot resolve and is causing problems, there are few of those, the mediator can stop the mediation. But those are very few. But in essence, mediation is a process by which the parties involved in it really make the decisions on how they come out in the agreement. As long as it's not illegal and it's not immoral and it's something that can be handled and the parties agree to, they can come up with an agreement. Then they take the agreement and they take it to the parties that would be involved. So if they went to court, for example, they can take that back to court. If they want to just give it to each other and then they're kind of self-governed for making sure they abide by the agreement, the conditions of the agreement. Those get a little bit complicated, but for this one, we're kind of thinking that if the rent is not paid, we will immediately ask them to go see Dana. She's got a ton of money. She says she's got a lot of money, but she's got a ton of money. And this can help a lot of people with their rent. So we're going to recommend that first, to try to see if you qualify for that. We also anticipate that we may have to possibly deal with a landlord-tenant situation where a landlord is not legal in a lease agreement, does not have the license in order to be a landlord. And we're hoping that maybe, Dan, we can have legal aid assist landlords in that situation, because it may be a simple thing of them, obtaining a form. And I think it kind of goes to what Charlie's question was earlier, that there are landlords that just don't know how. And we're cognizant of that. The people we serve many times just don't know how. And it becomes our job to help them find out, take them, or find someone that can take them or make an appointment for them. Because, so we really want to do that. If out there, for Mel and Charlie to do something like this, and for the representatives to allow us on this show to put out that information, the landlords that don't know that first step or are afraid, some landlords be afraid, they're dealing with federal money, so that, they're worried about that. What happens next? Are the feds going to come check on me and things like that? So we can help get them to the right resource to help them to get the right documents they may need in order to execute a good lease agreement. We have done that before. So
Hey, Dan, I'm sorry, go ahead.
we cannot do everybody, yeah, but we certainly hold hands. We certainly make that extra effort. We're kind of used to working with those that may have not been so savvy in the system, so to speak. And it is our job to help them do that, whether it's to get benefits, whether it's to stay out of trouble, whether it's to get a job, whether it's to get a house, whether it's to get some food for the day. We've done that. So we're not shy or worried about holding someone's hand and taking them over to the state building and say, this is where you got to file in order for you to become a legal landlord.
Hey, Dan, I got a question, and I know maybe I'll ask a question in her commentary, but the the mediators agreement that they end up with, hopefully most of them will come up with an agreement. I think everybody realizes that mediation is much better than litigation. So the mediation agreement that is the product of this service, is that enforceable by the court? Number one, that's the first question. And number two, for those that, as Maybelle said, maybe some of them are not legal landlords or they're not doing the things right, will they be able to participate? And if not, are they forced to go through court proceedings in small claims or in district court?
Okay, so the answer to your first question is, can that be enforced? And the answer is yes. What you need to do once you get to mediation is go back to court and have it presented to the court so it can become court order. It says, here's our mediation agreement. If you give it to the court and enter it into the records, then it can be enforced by either the landlord or tenant, as the case can be. If you just put it in your pocket and take it home with you, you got to somehow go to court again. So it's best, once you're done with mediation, get back to court.
Let me just interrupt real quick. Okay, because in a normal track, there's a civil case that is created. Somebody sues somebody. Judge says, hey, you guys go mediation and come back with your results. In this case, you won't have that civil case. You're going to have a letter that says.
Okay. Yep. So in that, okay, exactly. Yeah, exactly. You're right. That nuance, exactly. So in that case, to get it enforced in court, somebody would have to then file a claim in court to say, but you don't have to go through the long process. You can just attach that agreement and file it that way. And so that way you're going to be able to enforce it that way, landlord or tenant. And then on your second question, landlords who have an illegal rental or something out of code, nothing stops them from trying to enforce their lease. So they might be shy about it. They might not like to talk with Dana because they don't have a GE license or what have you, but that doesn't stop anything from happening. They can still they can enforce their rights on the property. They're not sort of stuck with a tenant forever simply because, they didn't have a kitchen up to code or whatever it is. So they absolutely should do it, especially if they want to get the property back. Maybe there'll be some tension and all that and there is a lot of tension, but that landlord probably needs to do that. Not only can they, but they should do it just to kind of pop that boil, you know, get done with it, right? So.
One last question for Dana. For those that are not on the internet, I know you mentioned KauaiRentHelp.com. If we have viewers out there that know someone, kupuna, that maybe don't have computer access, is there a way that they can access this program in person at the credit union or any other way?
So yes, we did partner with the public libraries before we launched so that anybody can walk into a public library system. We outfitted all the public libraries with thumb drives so that they could scan documents and apply online. If applying online is not an option, we do have the option of telephoning in. So an applicant can come call us, give us a call. We have a direct line. It's 482-3777. All this information is on our main webpage on the Kauai Rent Help website. They can make an appointment with an intake specialist and we can do an over the phone application. And then once we put their application in, the applicant can bring in their materials and drop it off to us at either our credit union. We even go into the community and we've gone to people's homes and picked it up. Or, you know, we try to remove every barrier possible in order to get the help out, get the assistance out. So we have a lot of creative ways. So we don't really tell anybody no. We can't help you. That doesn't come out of our mouth.
Question for Rep. Troy Hashimoto. So given what I'm being exposed just by watching the panel tonight, I'm sure this is just one part of the pie and there's many more portions of the pie that went into how you crafted this bill and how you got it passed. Why don't you let our viewers know, you know, at length, what did it take? Because this issue, just from what I gathered, you know, just in almost an hour, it's still complicating to me, but I can see the benefits given from the legal side, given from the lending side, getting involved in the mediation process. But there are so many nuances to this that it almost seems that when you develop or crafted this bill, you had to make sure that everybody jumped on the rails and everything went the right direction. I mean, that's what it seems like. And I guess maybe it's just a cop mentality. I know what can go wrong will go wrong, and I don't want to think like that. And having served my time with the police department on Maui, I see things, you know, when you try to steer things back, it can be a little different. So why don't you tell our viewers how, you know, what process went into just really crafting all of this to come up with such a program like this now?
Yeah, that's a great question. And, you know, I think it's a testament to the buy-in of the stakeholder group. And I think that is the most difficult thing, is to really get a diverse group on the same page, and, you know, from all types of backgrounds, because I think at the end of the day, it really was a landlord versus tenant. But I do have to give Dan O'Meara from Legal Aid and David Chi, who's the landlord attorney, who really sat down and said, okay, let's put some of our differences aside and see if we can actually come up with a practical solution. And once they came up, you know, and they put their heads together, and there was some impasses at some point that we had to kind of be like, hey, Dan and David, let's kind of talk this out and see what we can compromise on. And, you know, of course, once they talked it out, we had to shop it around to all the other stakeholders. But I think that's the first step. And I think in any piece of good legislation, you're going to have to, if you can get all of those, you know, undecideds and all the naysayers kind of all on the same page before the session starts, it goes a little smoother. But, you know, we started to get it through the legislature too, we had some problems. You know, the bill that we started out with is not what we ended up with either. We had to work with some of the senators who removed important parts of the bill that we thought was really needed, including the form that Rep. Nakamura is putting on our website. And so that's kind of a workaround, because some folks deleted the form out of the bill. So we had to find other solutions on how to make it work. But you're right. I think it was just a difficult situation, but we knew that this was coming. And at least I think that was impetus of pushing this forward and knowing and staying laser focused on how would we get ourselves out of here. Because I think if we didn't have anything, I'm not sure if the governor really would be okay lifting the eviction moratorium just straight off the bat. I think he would it might be still in place. But I know because of this landing, he actually accelerated. We weren't really ready to let this eviction moratorium expire just yet. I think we needed maybe another month or so just to get the mediation up and running. But I think because we knew that this was in place, I think the governor was like, I really want to end this to get back to some type of normalcy. And I think that was what the landlords really wanted all this time. They just want to get paid and be able to pay their bills. And there were so many who were unable to do that. So that's why I think there was a lot of pressure out in the community. But yeah, I think it's just figuring out how to work together and compromising. And I think sometimes, that's in politics, both at the county, state, and federal level. I think sometimes the elected officials have a hard time compromising. But I think in this case, at least we were able to do so.
And I'd like to add to that, Charlie, if you don't mind, but we involved the judiciary from the very beginning. They were so concerned about an avalanche of eviction cases hitting the court system all at once. And so they had their own self-interest in making sure that we coordinated and heard their voices in the whole process. So Judge May on Oahu, retired Judge Cardoza on Maui were part of our discussions from day one. And that really helped us hearing those voices. The realtors were involved, property managers were involved, Rep Hashimoto really spearheaded all of this. And we had our Rep Aaron Johansson from Consumer Protection, who really, at the end of the day, was able to work with Senator Baker and get it through the conference committee. And that was, it was a struggle along the entire way. And then trying to find the funding for the free mediation services was another big hurdle, but we were able to find the sources of funding and get leadership commitment from the House and Senate to make it happen. So just so many people were involved throughout the process, and we really don't know at the end of the day, because there's so much rent relief monies. We're hearing from the neighbor islands, maybe there might not be as many evictions as we anticipated, but we just don't know what's going to happen. But we wanted to be prepared. And I think, I feel very good about the team on Kauai working together to try to make this as smooth as possible and reduce the housing, reduce the homelessness. This is not a good time with the variant out there, and we just need to have stable housing for our residents.
I think that's what's everybody's goal. I mean, everybody's concerned. I did want to say that, COVID is a problem. This Delta is a problem. It's not, it's not the landlord's fault. And it's not the tenant's fault. This is a problem that was created with an unusual situation called COVID. And I know this whole, reading the comments, I mean, it's dividing people because of the anger, because, and a lot of it is because some of the landlords have sold out. They've sold their homes. That was the only way they could get to cut their losses. They weren't, money's available to help them, no support. The only way they could continue was to sell their house, get their tenant out, and pay their mortgage. And that made them the bad guys. But their backs against the wall, nowhere to go. This is a program. I want to thank you, Nadine and Troy. I'm sorry, Representative Nakamura and Representative Hashimoto. I want to thank you guys because as I'm digesting, like Charlie, we're digesting this information. This is kind of the best of all worlds, where you can help both landlord and tenant, because everyone knows, it's so much easier to go through this with a mediated agreement than an eviction, and we know evictions take a long time, and it's costly, and it's the whole process. So. Yeah. We are at the 8 o'clock hour. I did not want to leave without letting each and every one of you have some closing thoughts. I know I was thinking 1 hour wouldn't be enough, but I want to respect all of your time and thank all of you beyond. But let's start. I don't care, whoever wants to start. Just some closing thoughts, and more importantly, information for our viewers if they need to get in touch with you or resource numbers that they can call.
Okay, let's start with Dana.
Yeah, I want to start with Dana. Dana, I want money.
Well, we have funded almost $7 million in rent and utility assistance this far. We've helped about 700 households, and we have about 14 million left or so, 13 million left. So we do have ample funding. I would encourage everybody to just apply. Go to KauaiRentHelp.com. Go on the website. We have a direct email on there. We have a direct number. We are fully staffed. We work about 45 hours a week with our intake specialists. If you have questions, call us. We have translation services available. You never know if you're going to be able to receive this assistance if you don't just apply. That's my final message. And we're here to help you. Our job is to help you.
Thank you. Maybelle and Anastasia.
Sure. I need to echo what Dana is saying, to apply. I don't only say that for services that KEO has or for mediation, but that's kind of our mantra at KEO. We don't tell us no. We let somebody else tell us no. Our agency lives strictly on grants, and we've done this for 56 years. We don't have corporate funding per se. So we need to always apply for those grants in order to be client driven and help the clients. So we've always had that mantra is we don't tell us no. If there's a need, we apply and we let somebody else tell us no. And sometimes we agree and sometimes we don't. But in this case, like for mediation, if you have any kind of conflict with the eviction, call or come and see Anna. I'm gonna ask Anna to give the information on how they can access the services. Anna, if you could, I think I talked. Thank you. Thank you for allowing us to be here.
Thank you, Mabel. So I'm just gonna reinforce, if you got the notice, please do not ignore it. There is information on the notice. It's 245-4077, extension 238 or extension 234, mediation at keoinc.org, or walk-ins are just welcome, and we will see what we can do. So for this specific program, if you get the notice, if you have the notice on your hands, do not ignore it. Please call or email me.
Thank you.
Real quick, Anastasia or Maybelle, do you have enough mediators on staff right now to handle this load of people coming through?
I have 6 mediators that confirm that they're gonna help me, dedicated people. So I'm very confident in I'm just overwhelmed how blessed I am, and I'm very thankful for them that they're agreed to help me in this program. And also there is 16 active mediators that I can just ask them, here you go, there is a case, if you have time, this is your opportunity. And first come, first serve, and there is mediators who just sends me the time and I'm just plugging the case.
And those are all volunteers, right?
At the moment, all volunteers. Our practices are not different at the moment, but we're working with Dana to compensate it. And it's going to be a huge bonus. Thank you so much, Dana, for all this support.
We're all in this together.
Okay, Dan?
Thank you for this opportunity. And one thing is that regardless of whether you're landlord or tenant, the process will go better for you on either side if you get some advice. Legal aid is free. So you're not going to, if you're a tenant, call us at 536-4302. Option 1, 536-4302. If you're a landlord, you might want to call the landlord tenant hotline, which is run by the Office of Consumer Protection, and that's 586-2634. Regardless, getting good advice, getting through the process quickly and simply will alleviate a lot of stress. And then I don't know if there's property managers or landlord groups on this, but anybody who can should share that repnakamura.com so that they can get those templates. Because that, even if you can't afford an attorney, if you get that form, you're going to get a good start on trying to resolve situations. So, and right now, repnakamura.com is really the place, kind of the only place that's really putting itself out there. So statewide. So anyway, thank you.
Rep Hashimoto?
Well, thank you, Mel and Charlie, for hosting us tonight. I think we put in a lot of work in trying to think this through to make sure we have this soft landing. We just cross our fingers that it'll work and that people will feel that it's something that is helpful. And I think that's what we're really trying to make sure happens through this educational process, because I think that's really what needs to happen now is please tell your family, your friends, whoever may be facing some type of eviction or some type of hardship, that we're here. We have resources out there for you, and we just want to be there to help the community. And I think I can't reiterate enough how lucky you are to have Rep Nakamura representing you in the State House, and hopefully we can continue to work on these housing issues, because we believe our committee is very important, because that's the biggest issue within our community once COVID will be done. It will once again be housing, and housing that we can all afford. So you have our commitment that we'll continue to focus on that, all the facets of housing. But again, thanks so much for allowing me to be here tonight.
Yeah, and just real quickly, the purpose of all of this was, we know that when people get evicted, it's a black mark, and it makes it really hard for residents to get into any kind of housing. And so, we're hoping this will divert people from the legal process and try to make it, possible for people to go through mediation and hopefully get issues resolved with resources that are available. So, we just want to thank Charlie and Mel for both of you for giving us this forum so that we could all be here and tell you the story and explain, this program. And we hope that people will take advantage and listen to what Anastasia say. When you get the letter, respond and get the process going. So thank you, both of you, so much for making it so easy for us.
Thank you. Charlie? Cannot hear.
You're on mute.
There you go. Making a boo-boo again. I'd like to say thank you very much to our esteemed guests, all of you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. It was a very eye-opener for me, and I'm sure it is for many out there. To our viewers, again, we just try to bring the information, and hopefully something will interest you and that can help you in whatever you're faced with. I did want to comment that I think for both sides, it seems very fair to say that both sides have to be responsible. If you want to get something worked out, both of you have to be responsible. Both of you have to come to the table with an open mind. And, like when we faced the unemployment situation, right? There was so much funding coming out. Nobody wanted to go back to work. And it created a disadvantage in the market. I hope and pray that when assistance comes your way, know that you have a responsibility and a duty to provide for your family, but also to be a responsible tenant. And to those landlords out there, I think a little compassion will go a long way. I know some of you have been hit hard, but we live on an island. It's not easy for us to jump in our car and drive to the next state. It just doesn't work like that in Hawaii. We're going to see each other no matter what. And I hope and pray that, we still can put on a smile and be civil about it and get things done. So that is my prayer, and I hope that works out. So again, I'd like to thank the entire panel that we had tonight. And if you ever need to get a hold of me, call Mel. There you go.
See what I got to do with every night. I got to deal with this guy every single stinking night, Hey, you guys, thank you all. By the way, Charlie would be a great mediator. The best mediator. You just got to have the medics waiting out. You got to have the medics waiting outside in case the two guys get into an argument. But anyway. Hey, thank you all for joining us tonight. I know we went a little bit over time. Tonight was the first night that the Mel and Charlie show went live on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn. So there, I know it's the viewership is wide. I'm also gonna edit it. We're gonna take out the pre-show that me and Charlie joke around. And anyone that wants a copy of this video, any of you or anyone else, let me know. We'll send you the video. You can use it on your website. You can put it, whatever. I'm hoping, use it, because my biggest fear is that no one will know about the program. Many people will not use it because they didn't know about it. And that is always the case. You can put them on the news, you can put them in the paper. It always comes down to making sure people get to use it, because I don't know what better alternative we have with the existing circumstances with COVID. This is the best system, the best process in place right now. I encourage everyone to take advantage. Again, you guys are great people doing a great service. We appreciate you guys so much. Keep up the good work. That's about it, guys. Go get some rest. Get some rest.
You too.
Nadine, thanks. What I'll try to do is get all the resource numbers. Oh, I did want to put this up real quick. KawaiRentHelp.com. If you don't have internet, 487-3777, or repnakamura.com to get the form and instructions and all of that. If you guys have any specific questions, as always, you can message Charlie and he'll answer your questions. All right, guys, you guys take care. Stay safe. God bless. We will see you guys soon. Aloha.
Aloha.